everybody we were meeting at 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Yep, if you're in this room, you're on the air.
Can we all rise, please?
Oops.
Want me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. All right, we're going to start this meeting this evening. This is for our Charter Commission, and we have a few members that are not here presently that are going to be coming in a few minutes late. And the board, you members need to elect your chair, vice chair, and your secretary. So I'll need to make a motion and have discussion on who would like to fill those positions.
All right, I'll nominate Brian Farmer as the chair. Anybody want to second it?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so Brian, you are now chair. Congratulations.
Thanks, maybe.
We need to nominate a vice chair. Would someone like to do that? Nominate the vice chair?
I'll nominate Christine. What? I'm just going down the road.
Looking to see who's
Do you notice that Deb's trying to get rid of those positions?
What? Why not? You said you wanted to get back in the groove.
As vice chair, okay, we have a nomination on the floor from Deb Paul for Chris Navarro as vice chair. Do I have a second? From Chris. All those, do you accept the nomination? I should have asked that, I apologize.
No, I'll accept it. That's fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now we need to nominate someone for secretary.
I think I'll nominate Deb Paul for
No.
secretary.
We have a nomination on the floor for secretary for Deb Paul. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Brian, do you accept the nomination?
I don't want to take minutes.
Okay.
I really
I need
don't.
another,
Thank
I
you.
need another nomination, please.
Nominate Lara.
Okay. Do I have a second for Lara?
I'll second.
There we go.
Brian? Or would you like to accept that nomination for secretary?
What would be involved with?
You'd be responsible for taking care of the minutes, posting the minutes, getting the minutes certified by the board at the following meeting, and make sure that those are given to me within the allotted time.
I can do that.
Okay? So we have a nomination for Laura, and it's been second. Do I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So we have Laura as our secretary. And I'm just going to back up, Brian. Did you want to accept the nomination for chair?
Yes, I think I already.
Thank you. 6, 7. Anything else that I need to do? Okay, so Brian, you may lead us in the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think everybody here has already gotten our different letters that we had. One came under certified mail telling us what our tonight's agenda, which is the organizational meeting. And then we'll have a discussion with Bart Mayer, who's here to talk to us about what our job is, what our role is as a charter commission under what the town's people elect us. So, Bart, if you'd like to come up and...
Good evening and congratulations to those you elected, and we'll get you next round for something. The Charter Commission is now established for a specific purpose. It's a limited purpose. There are charter commissions that are created to create charters or to revise them entirely. The vehicle that the citizens voted on to establish this Charter Commission is for one limited purpose, which is to look into creating official ballot an official ballot system for the town. And that leaves you with all the options in the world. You can determine what questions should be presented on the official ballot. You're going to need to determine what the date of the deliberative session is, what the date of the voting session is, the ballot session is. You're going to probably have to look at the budgeting provisions of the charter to see that they match what you eventually want to implement. And that's at sections 5.3 and 5.4 of the charter. I'm hoping that you have the charter, have studied it carefully. There will be a pop quiz. We're off and running. So generally what you're doing is that within 2 weeks, we're going to have a public hearing where citizens will be able to give their input. But in the meantime, you will be talking about how you want to start structuring the government in order to implement some kind of official balloting system. And I'll be available whenever you need it. Ultimately, the law requires that there be a letter from an attorney when you're done saying that the proposals for amending the charter are consistent with the Constitution and the laws of New Hampshire. So I'll be reviewing them, but it would be best that we get me involved earlier so I don't say at the end that you're done. And you have until August really to report and finish the job. But there'll be a lot of give and take. I'm sure a lot of people will have good ideas for you to consider, and you can take them all into consideration as you deliberate and go the direction you want to go.
Okay, is there questions for Bart?
Is it just the one public hearing, or do we have as many as we want, or how does that work?
There's one mandatory public hearing within 2 weeks of this date, and then from there, it's the number of hearings that you want. I'm sure you're going to need some time without public hearings to have work sessions to discuss ideas and see whether they'll work and how they get integrated into the charter. So you'll be working on that, and then eventually, you may want to have a hearing and draw more people into the process and hear what their suggestions are. It really depends heavily on what you want to do or where you're going. For example, you could be a typical SB2, we call it, community under RSA 40, Section 13 and 14. You should look at those, or we should get them for you, because those contain some of the essential dates and schedules that you have to meet. But in a typical SB2 community that's adopted by townspeople that doesn't have a charter already, what occurs is that all of the questions on the warrant go onto the ballot. Every single one of them, whether it's an ordinance or a budget or whatever, special articles. You're dealing with exclusively budgetary issues here. We're not at liberty to change the form of government, so it's a budgetary town meeting with a town council, town manager form of government we're living with. But you determine what articles from the warrant go on the official ballot. And by way of example, if I'm not mistaken, we already have a little of that to the extent that I think bond issues do go to the citizens. So some communities will do that and leave it at that. You have to decide what, if anything, goes beyond that. Capital reserve funds, cost items, things like that. So you have the option of as many hearings as you want, and you have as many work sessions as you want.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, to take input from the public, we'd have to call for a public meeting then, right?
A public hearing, yeah.
Yeah, so then what would we do? Just go to, the chair would go to Dave?
Yeah, well, what you'll do is you'll need to coordinate, obviously, timing, because this meeting room is used for several different committees and boards, but you coordinate your timing and scheduling, and then ultimately you just can post a public hearing for a given date. The Charter Commission is required to comply with the right to know law. I know Brian's well acquainted with it, so we'll be able to keep on track with that. But it would just be a matter of making sure your scheduling doesn't conflict with any other use of the room, and you can schedule whatever dates you want for both your meetings or your public hearings. I suspect you could also use conference rooms and such if they're large enough to accommodate some people who might want to come and watch, but you can coordinate those things. But I don't think that will be a very difficult matter. It's just making sure that you've got the postings.
Right.
So the So Meg, you went on ahead and scheduled this room for April 12th. That's a Monday night, so that we're in compliance with having our first meeting within 14 days of this one.
I make a motion that we schedule the public hearing for April 12, 2010 in this room.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The first public hearing will be on April the 12th, 2010.
And we've covered everything that is required of our first meeting, correct?
Yes, you've organized, you can adopt rules of procedure to the extent you need them, and,
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Before,
Oh, never mind.
Point of order?
I would make a motion that we follow at least as closely as possible the Robert's Rules of Order, and you'll notice I asked the chairman permission to speak and that type of thing, and I think that that would be respectful and appropriate.
Okay. Yes.
I know I'm not a member of the commission, but if I might give you some advice, don't adopt Robert's Rules of Order. First of all, nobody knows what Robert's Rules of Order, as far as I can tell, are. There are a million different copies, variations, revised. Maybe what we could do, I see your point, which is, let's get some structure here, ask for permission to speak.
Thank you.
But I imagine that perhaps the council has some
No, we
rules
don't
of
have any
procedure?
rules.
No? And so it was an informal...
You've been to a few meetings, right?
Hey, wait a second, I always thought they were well-run, I must say. But I suppose that...
Well, I think that that's from a continuity of, new counselors coming on, being indoctrinated by the old counselors, and then there's just a turnover, the same thing that we have on the school board, the planning board, everything else. There is something a little less stringent than Robert's Rules. I'll dig it up. There was a gentleman in New Hampshire back in the 50s or so, wrote out some rules for meetings for planning boards that had some, just the same type of courtesies that you're talking about, Steve. And I think just to put everybody in the frame of reference, if we can talk about those at our first meeting on the 12th, that would probably be a good first step to make sure we level set everything. For myself, before a motion comes up to adjourn, I would just like to check with everybody and find out if Monday nights are the preferable night, or is there another night that's more preferable. As a group, we can decide this.
Can we decide that at our first meeting or not? After that first Monday night meeting?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
So I'll take it upon myself to get squared away with the calendars of what dates are available for the room. I'll primarily look at Monday nights, but we can go get the calendars for the next several successive months.
Yeah, the only
Pick
conflict
dates.
that I might have would be with LAFA, and I'd like to pick a day that
Is
isn't.
that a Monday night conflict?
It's Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights, I think, but I can work around it, obviously, if we have to.
Does anybody have anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn?
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
A second. I second.
I have a second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.